Well, hello and welcome to I Love Gay today. And we are here today with Laura Fernandez, Sirius XM. How are you?
Hey, Matt, it's so nice to see you coming off of the conference circuit.
I know. Well, that's the whole thing is that, the reason we're here and we're connected, it's amazing. Not everybody knows Sirius XM and Pandora. You guys are combined together.
Yeah.
But you guys have been very out there when it comes to supporting both first IGLTA with their convention in Atlanta and then the Connect Thrive Summit I saw you at.
Yes, getting out and traveling for business for me personally has been a blast, and attending these conferences has been incredible. My role at SiriusXM is that I head up the travel tourism vertical from the advertising perspective. So SiriusXM owns the platforms. We have Pandora, the digital music streaming app. We have SoundCloud. We have a US partnership from the advertising side with SoundCloud. We have Stitcher, which is just a new acquisition that we made all around podcasts. Shows like Conan Needs a Friend, Oprah's show. And then we also have partnerships with NBC, their podcast.
Yeah. I don't think everybody realizes podcasts are hot right now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I think it came out that over 116 million people consume podcasts. And I think the reason, audio has always been around, but the reason that people are really leaning on podcasts, it's you get a little bit of a visual vacation, and then you also get to learn something. That's the primary reason people come to podcasts is to learn something.
Yeah. And also it's one of the very few mediums, I think, where you can get more long form content out there, because in general, whether, especially for what we're doing, even with this show and everything we do on, whether it's video and so forth, you've got a short attention span to capture their attention. And so for us, we'll try to capture their attention in a few seconds and then lead them to perhaps a longer video. But even then they're like 10, 15 minutes max.
Yeah.
But the podcast opens up a whole new door because it allows folks to be able, whether they're driving to work or they're at the office, but to actually consume and listen to something that's 30 minutes, 45 to an hour.
Agreed. And that's what, again, I work on the advertising side of the business. So when we're working with a travel brand to advertise on audio platform, sometimes the first thing that they say to me is, now we want to showcase our destination, we want to showcase this visually. Yeah. But what about all those moments, like you just mentioned, when you're driving? Like visual media can't reach you when you're driving, but what can is audio. Yeah. That's what I get so excited about the space. I've always been in audio, advertising sales, and I always thought to myself of like me personally, it's like there's so many moments throughout the day where visual media is not able to access me when I'm working out, when I'm running, I'm cooking and entertaining, driving. And that's really a great opportunity for advertisers to reach people in those key moments and not really interrupt their daily life.
Yeah, that's interesting. When we were talking about podcasts being hot, it was Wall Street Journal just had an article too. Spotify and their world of podcasts, it was about their ad business, and they were saying user growth was up 19%, which for them was, the point was, it was quite high.
Yes, for the space as a whole, there is definitely a growth in audio consumption. Over the past year, digital audio growth was around 32%. Okay. People are consuming audio more than ever. But one of the biggest differences between SiriusXM and our house of brands, which is the Pandora, Stitcher, SoundCloud, SiriusXM, and then some of our partnerships, is the advertising side and that addressability. We are an ad platform first, which means that more than 80% of our audience is ad addressable. So people are not paying a subscription. And that's where Spotify is different from us, is their subscription-based model. Yeah. So that's one thing just to keep in mind, but it's exciting from a growth perspective.
Yeah. And what I think is really interesting, what you, especially at the Connect Thrive Summit, you're on stage, you're talking about something that I don't know if everybody always understands, but the world that I'm in and a lot of the folks I deal with, they get it, which is data. data and targeting and that whole world. I mean, right now, also the biggest news that came out yesterday was that Google had like an insane quarter in terms of ad revenue. And it's just because they're all about not just throwing money out there to reach the masses, but to really drill down and target people based on interests. And Facebook is right behind them doing the same. But you guys are also in that same category. You're able to really target LGBT, in this case, LGBT travelers and some of their interests.
Yeah, from a targeting standpoint, I'll speak to Pandora specifically. Pandora collects over 1 billion data points daily from our listeners. So we have this logged in user base where when you registered with Pandora, you put your birth date, your zip code, your gender, and your email. So that's our logged in listener data that we can use to build audience solutions, such as LGBTQ plus affinity segments. And we use that logged in user base, that registration data, in combination with music listening habits. So for LGBTQ plus specifically, we look at what the different communities are consuming music, whether they have added our Pride station, are they listening to some of the top trending artists? And we use that to build out an audience affinity segment for LGBTQ plus.
Yeah. And it's not just music too. It's like you talk about the stations that you have, but also those podcasts. There's a lot of the whole growth in informational and storytelling. And that's all a part of what you guys touch on as well.
Yeah. And, what I get really excited about is, and we had this conversation at Thrive, is a lot of brands are coming in and they want to invest with host-read ads. They want to invest with Conan O'Brien talking about their brand. But one thing to make a note of is out of the top 1,000 podcasts, that only equates to 1% of the total podcast listening universe. So there's a huge opportunity. And we have a network now with that is actually over hundreds and thousands of different podcasts that we can then target through category targeting to transcription targeting. Transcription targeting is really interesting to me, is that's when every podcast that gets uploaded, it actually gets transcribed before it gets live. So we can target by specific keywords, and it could be travel being one of them.
Yeah, which ties into what I think a lot of other advertisers have become very comfortable with the whole native advertising and content content marketing on one side, but tapping into articles and being able to deliver relevant, not even ads. A lot of times they're like ad units that really tell another story.
Agreed. And that's where you have to lean on the platform. If you're a brand that's coming in, the creative is so important. Not only do you want to lead with an audience first strategy and target that specific consumer on the platform, but also you have to have creative that's going to resonate with that audience. There's no more of this like one size fits all mentality. Like you have to work and develop creative that's going to resonate with that audience.
Yeah, now, this is great stuff. And I'm just looking forward to it, especially when we're out talking to clients and so forth. It takes a little while, the sales cycle in terms of educating them on these things, but I'm looking forward to when we're going to be able to get some excited about what the kind of the work you're doing.
Yes, no, we are working with destinations, accommodation brands, transportation, and just be it based upon our scale and our targeting solutions and our ad products, because it really is an uncluttered environment and a way to capture people. Again, what I said before is where visual media cannot.
Yeah. Well, this is great. Well, I look forward to being able to connect with you again at an upcoming conference where we can continue this conversation.
Exactly. Matt, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. Thanks so much for being here, sharing a little of your story, and we'll talk soon.
Perfect. Thank you.
Right. Take care now.
So good, coming back again.